There is a specific kind of silence that settles into your bones when your entire life vanishes in less than 12 hours. I used to believe that hard work and loyalty were shields against the chaos of the world, but I was wrong. Sitting in a dimly lit diner on a rainy Tuesday night, I realized that everything I had built over 2 decades was gone, leaving me with a hollow chest and an uncertain future. My name is Arthur Vance, and until that morning, I was a man defined by my routine and my dedication. For nearly 20 years, I had poured my soul into a major shipping firm in Des Moines, starting on the dusty warehouse floor and climbing up to a senior operations manager. I expected to finish my career there, believing my sacrifice meant something to the company. Instead, my reward was a cold conference room and a 30-year-old corporate executive named Logan Drake. He wore a tailored suit that cost more than my car, holding a thin blue folder containing my employment history. Without a hint of empathy, he told me that a massive corporate restructuring had eliminated my position permanently, rendering my 20 years of perfect service completely irrelevant. They gave me precisely 2 months of severance pay and escorted me out of the building like a criminal, refusing to even shake my hand. I sat in my truck for nearly an hour, staring at the front doors I could no longer enter, feeling a strange weightlessness. My identity had been stripped away in minutes, leaving me completely unsure of who I was supposed to be. When I drove home to our quiet suburban house, I found my wife Nora waiting in the driveway with an unreadable expression. I tried to tell her about the sudden layoff, but she stopped me instantly, explaining that she already knew about the corporate changes through a friend. She took a deep breath, and before I could process her words, she calmly announced she was filing for divorce. Nora explained that she had been secretly meeting with the family attorney for several months to draft the paperwork. She coldly noted that my sudden unemployment actually simplified the financial division, making the alimony calculations much more favorable for her. The woman I had loved since college was looking at me like a stranger, completely detached from the life we had shared together. She had already moved our teenage children to her sister's house over the weekend while I was finishing a late shift at the warehouse. Nora looked at me with pure contempt and said that I was completely worthless because I had never advanced beyond a basic management role. Then she loaded her final suitcase into her car, leaving me alone in a silent house. By 9 in the evening, the walls of the empty house were suffocating me, forcing me out onto the dark, rain-slicked highway. I drove without a destination, eventually pulling into a glowing 24-hour diner on the edge of town, thus to find some warmth. The elderly waitress poured me a cup of black coffee, offering a quiet look of sympathy without asking a single question. At exactly 10:47, the diner door chimed, and an elderly gentleman with silver hair and a worn canvas jacket walked inside. He ordered a slice of pie, but when he turned around and caught sight of my face, he froze completely in the middle of the aisle. The old man began shaking violently, staring at me as if he were looking at a ghost. The stranger slowly walked over to my booth, sitting down across from me without asking for permission, his hands trembling against the table. He looked into my eyes and whispered that I looked exactly like his son, who had mysteriously vanished 35 years ago. His name was Thomas Bennett, and his son Julian had gone missing from a highway rest stop in the winter of 1991. Thomas pulled a laminated, faded photograph from his leather wallet and slid it across the table for me to examine. The boy in the picture was 19, smiling outside a college dorm, but the face looking back at me was an absolute mirror image of my own younger self. It was a terrifyingly perfect duplication, and I suddenly understood why this grieving father was trembling. I gently explained to Thomas that I was not his missing child, sharing the names of my own parents who lived in another state. He nodded, explaining that he knew I was not Julian, but he desperately needed my help anyway. Thomas had spent decades and hundreds of thousands of dollars searching for answers, and his aging body was finally running out of time. He offered to pay me a massive salary and provide free housing if I agreed to help him investigate the cold case. Thomas wanted me to use my face as a living reference for forensic artists and to stand in the towns where his son had lived. He believed that my physical presence could unlock memories and make people reveal secrets they had kept for decades. Looking at the napkin where he wrote his farm address, I realized that my old life was officially dead and gone. My corporate job was eliminated, my wife had abandoned me, and my children were separated from me by a bitter legal wall. This grieving stranger was offering me a brand new purpose at the exact moment I felt completely worthless. The next afternoon, I drove out to his beautiful historic farmhouse, surrounded by vast cornfields and a deep, peaceful country silence. Thomas showed me his study, which was completely filled with decades of investigative files, old maps, and a massive timeline of the disappearance. He admitted that he believed his son had chosen to vanish with the help of someone powerful. I stared out the window at the cozy stone guest house that would become my new home, feeling a sudden surge of determination. I accepted his strange offer, realizing that the broken men were bringing their sorrows together to find the truth. My old identity was completely gone, but as we prepared to start our search, I was finally ready to face the future.